Hey, Lioness. Welcome to the show, Lioness Conversations, where we help women be brave, to lead with confidence and joy, and to find your path to the most meaningful work of your life. I'm your host, Jen Porter, leadership and empowerment coach for ambitious and heart-centered women who are on a mission to change the world. Today, we have a very special guest. From a thriving career in Silicon Valley tech to founding a purpose-driven senior advisory business, Nickell Melo made a bold midlife pivot to align her work with her heart. As a certified senior advisor and owner of Oasis Senior Advisors in Greater San Jose, she now empowers families with compassionate guidance during one of life's most important and complex transitions, aging. Nickell, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. That was such a beautiful introduction. Thank you.
Oh, you're
Um,
welcome.
right.
I think your work is so important. When you and I
Oh,
first
thank you.
connected, it really spoke to me because I know how important this issue is, aging and senior care. My family has gone through this for many, many years, and I, people in my life, everyone is going through it in some way. And to hear your heart behind wanting to support families through these transitions just really spoke to me, and I wanted you to share on the
Thank
show.
you.
So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Was it emotional to hear?
It was. It really was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was beautiful though. Thank you.
What was touching you?
Just kind of hearing it out loud, that I made the pivot and to really support others through
Yeah.
this journey and just, finding that passion to help navigate, I think
Yes.
is and hearing that out loud was different than me reading or writing, those things. So,
Yes.
yes, thank you.
Yes. I'm so glad. Um, so the work that you do, I mean, just in getting to know you through our conversations, I know how important connection is for you, how
Yes.
important being a concierge to help people. Partnerships are extremely important for you, and that's what you're doing in this work that you've created. So tell us about the work and your mission right now.
Yeah. So the work is that I own a franchise. So it's a national franchise called Oasis Senior Advisors. And the work that we do is we work with adult children and their senior loved ones. And many times, especially in Silicon Valley, I find that I'm working with the seniors directly. So they're very independent. Many are coming from tech and in very high executive careers. And I really I'm providing a free service to them to help them navigate the process. And what I do is I'm really like a matchmaker or a real estate agent, but for senior living.
Mm.
So I work in Northern California, Greater San Jose, and have about 500 communities. But I can work all the way up to Redding if I wanted to, California.
Okay.
But our philosophy is that we're working closely with the communities and we want to see the communities, look, feel, touch, understand more about the communities and the culture of the community so we can communicate that to our client. And then we go on tours and handle the process from start to finish. Many times there's also other resources that we pull in. It could be elder law attorneys. It could be like
Hmm.
move, declutter organizers. It could be anyone who just wants, like if they wanted in-home care, but they want to move into assisted living where they want a companion or an additional care support provider. So there's a lot of resources that we can pull together to help make it exactly what the senior's looking for.
Wow. And I'm just imagining someone coming to you and having this discussion about what their aging journey is going to look like and how vulnerable and scary that must feel for them.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true?
Yeah. Yes. When the seniors come to me directly, there's quite a few that have never heard. And I ask them all the time, like, how did you find me? And usually it's online or through a friend.
Mhm.
And once they understand the navigation process and when their eyes light up the first time they see the first senior living community
Mm.
and how excited they get, they're like, They're like going to college, It's like the first time taking your kid to college. It looks like that. Which
Amazing.
it is. It's so amazing. And the same thing for the kids, the adult kids, their eyes light up as well.
So I'm putting it together. You are like a real estate
Hmm.
agent in a sense because you're hearing the needs of what someone's looking for, and then you're
Yes.
presenting, literally walking with them through the options of where they could live.
Yes. Yep.
And so you're getting to see their insights and their questions and how they're taking in what their life could look like if they were living there.
Hmm. And it's so important to understand the things that they love to do.
Mm.
Um, I mean, they're typically on a daily or a monthly average, the communities are doing, between 30 and 50 activities a week. It's just nonstop. And you don't have to participate. So many times it's called a cruise ship on land.
So that could be really appealing for somebody at a certain age, but they're opting into that.
Hmm.
They are able to make decisions for themselves at that point if you're dealing directly with the senior.
Most often when I'm dealing with a senior, they're making their own choices.
Mhm.
When I'm working with the adult children and it's coming together with the senior
Yeah.
and helping the senior feel comfortable with the decision and making sure that they're part of the process. So they could be MCI, so mild cognitively impaired,
Mhm.
but they're still able to make some decisions, but their children may handle the money.
Mhm.
And I just find that it's best. They can still live in assisted living, even though they may have some form of dementia or even Alzheimer's,
Mhm.
which is a misnomer. So many times the children and the adults think that the seniors think that if they have Alzheimer's, they have to move to memory care, which
Mhm.
is a locked. It's locked for the protection of the seniors,
Right.
but they don't have to move right in there. There's a lot of things that go into weighing where they move to support their needs.
So what's the most rewarding part of your work at this point?
I would say the most rewarding is being able to find that perfect community that when I listen to the family and the adult senior, the senior loved one, that, making sure that I'm listening to their needs and then finding them based on what I know within the Bay Area. And then seeing their eyes light up and being able to have them move in and then visiting them a month after and see how things are going. And that's my most rewarding is being able to go visit them after and see that we've made the right choice to help support them.
And this was really an intentional pivot that you made in your career to do something that was more meaningful and connected to your heart and your purpose.
It really was. It really was. It took some time. My husband, who also works in tech, um, said, take a year off and go figure it out.
Mm.
So I did. And the concierge was really what I was leaning towards, senior concierge. And that's how I discovered that this role was even available, senior placement, and then in a franchise. So I did even an additional pivot. I was going to go out on my own, not knowing that this existed. And then I decided to purchase a franchise instead.
Wow. So let's go back in time and tell the story of how you got to this place. So you grew up in Idaho,
I did, yes.
and what were you like as a child?
Well, I'm an only child,
Okay.
and I am the daughter of entrepreneur parents. And my mom, she's just she's always been my rock and oh, there's my kitty.
There's your
My
kitty.
rock in my whole life. And she actually owns a beauty salon. And she's 84 years old today, still very active and still working in her salon. So,
Wow.
um,
Amazing.
yeah, she's not working full time, but she
Yeah.
still is in her salon, still has clients coming in. But I grew up in her salon. And
Mm.
so she put me to work in her salon, whether it was combing out wigs, uh, doing the dusting, the cleaning, and answering the phone. I was a receptionist in her salon probably when I was 7, 8 years old. And I really got tired of being in her salon after school because that was where I had to go. We lived in the country on a farm. And so I'd always have to go to her salon. And there was a nursing home that was a block down the street. So when I was 12, I started going to the nursing home to be an activities volunteer. And the community, they picked up on it right away because I kept coming back every day after school.
Wow.
And they offered me a job to be the activities director.
How old were you?
I was 12 and I was like, whatever, what does that mean? Well, they didn't have to pay me because I could only volunteer. So
Best deal ever for them.
yeah, it was like a win-win. They're like, we'll just have her be the director, but she's for free. Wow. So yeah, it was a win-win. But I didn't remember really about that until I fast forward, and I moved to California when I was 17, and I ended up graduating college, actually working at Cisco Systems, was where I finally got my degree working for Cisco. So I moved out
But
17. Go ahead.
yeah, I
Yeah.
remember this, that
Yeah.
you left home really early and you started your tech career really early.
Very
How
early.
did that
Yeah.
happen?
Um, just I think I used my receptionist skills that I used in my mom's salon
Mhm.
and got a job in a company that no longer exists, but I still have a lot of friends from that company. And I got that first job at 18. And that I learned about stock, I learned about HR, benefits,
That was
everything at that
in
company.
Idaho. You were living at home.
Yeah, I was living in Idaho at 17, moved out here to California, where I am in San Jose, and got my first job in tech at 18.
So why did you
And
make that move?
um, opportunity and living in a small farm town, I really did not want to be a farmer's wife. Even though my parents were entrepreneurs, I was seeing a lot of my friends around me getting married very young
Hmm.
and were moving away and going to college. And there were unfortunately quite a bit of drugs. So, living in a small town, it sounds great. But sometimes the small town, if there's not a lot to do for the children, they get involved in things because they're bored.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to get into that. I dabbled in like pot once or twice, but I just could see that there was just not a lot for kids to do. And I didn't really think about college at that point. I was doing more JC when I came to California. But
Junior
that was my
college, do
goal.
you mean?
Junior college, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So when I came here, that was what I was doing, was junior college and then working.
But what was it about you that made you say, I'm going to move to California by myself?
Well, I had my mom is the youngest of 14 children,
Okay.
and they live in Idaho and California.
Hmm.
And there happened to be an aunt and uncle that lived in San Jose, California. So it wasn't like I was going just by myself,
Okay.
isolated. I did move in with them for a little bit and then moved out on my own. There used to be a paper called Potpourri in San Jose when they had physical papers with classifieds in it.
Yeah.
And I found looking for a roommate. I'm a female engineer for whatever AT&T was before that. She was a female engineer, and she traveled all around the world, and she needed someone to watch her dog while she traveled. So that was me. Um, so that's what I did. And she took a chance on me, even though I was 18. I
Yeah.
think I was almost 19 at that time. She took a chance
Mhm.
that I could be her roommate. And I thought at that time, she's so old. She's 30 years old.
I mean, that's a big age gap at that point in time.
I know. Yeah.
That's amazing. Really creative
Aw.
way to
Yeah.
make it work. You leveraged family, relatives, and
Mhm.
then, found a place on your own in a creative way where, again, you found a win-win where you were helping this woman and you were able to find a place to live
Yeah.
and a job.
Yep. And pay my
So
own bills, and yeah, it was a good experience.
so what was your career like in your late teens, early 20s?
Uh, it was fun, but I was, here in San Jose, and I was scared of the freeway. A lot of traffic, too much traffic. And then once I got over that fear, um, I met just really, really good friends that became my family. And we're still very close today. We have a really tight knit group. So this is almost, I don't want to age myself, but 30 plus years
Yeah.
now that we've still been friends.
Wow.
But it was fun going to the beach, going to do things that I never got to do in Idaho. And I thought California was all beach, but there's a distance between San Jose and Santa Cruz, but it's fun to get over there and still go visit the beach today.
And so where were you working when you first moved there?
When I first moved to San Jose, I was working for a company called Comag Incorporated, and they worked very closely with IBM and Seagate and Maxtor, and they were a disk manufacturer. So
Okay.
they had all the disks go inside, like the big servers.
And then did you move to Cisco from there?
I did like a catering job for a year just to try that out. And then I went to Cisco and ended up staying there two stints. I stayed first for 10 years, and then I went to Juniper Networks and started getting my degree at Juniper, and then came back to Cisco and worked for 6 more years and finished my degree.
And what was your specialty at those companies?
Partner marketing. So global partner marketing and incentives.
What did that look like?
It was really like we were teaching our resellers how to sell our products. And
Uh-huh.
so I worked with distributors and resellers of, it could have been SMB or small, medium business, enterprise or service provider. So working with like the AT&Ts of the world. And then it was mainly teaching them how to sell our products, but then also how to market. So we would provide marketing dollars to help them spend and figure out how to help them in other countries spend their funding.
So, this whole podcast is about lioness, the lioness. So feminine strength, grace, and power. And it's about being brave. And I'm just thinking about how many times you had to be brave in taking on new things, even at 12. That was brave to take on the new assignment as activities director, to move to California, to find a roommate, to find a job, to enter into an industry you probably knew nothing about. You had no
Mhm.
background in tech. So when you look back on the early part of your career, what what memories do you have about having to be brave?
Um, I would say resilience. And it's hard to be resilient all the time,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
But it's taking a step back and thinking about mostly what I've learned from my mom. Just she was a national examiner, with her little company in Burley, Idaho. So we would travel nationally. My friend and I would travel nationally with her to her conventions and see her on stage.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know what that means. What does national examiner mean?
Um, she was like, they used to have as cosmetology, they had this thing called the National Cosmetology Association.
Okay.
And so she was on the board. And so she would be a teacher and an examiner of how the students nationally did their work, their
Oh.
hair and color and
Oh.
everything that went into that.
Almost like an auditor.
Almost like an auditor. And then she became a state examiner. So
Okay.
each state, I don't know if that still exists, but I'm pretty sure it does. Each state has an examiner that it's an auditor that comes in, and they could show up at your salon and spot check to make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing.
So was
And so
she pretty meticulous?
she was meticulous, but she was just truly like a born leader. She just she's very, very gentle, but she can be very, very stern at the same time, and people just listen to her.
Is that
So
like you?
um I would have to say sometimes.
Yeah.
My kids would probably say that I can be stern, and probably some of my colleagues. I don't mean to come off that way,
Yeah.
um, but I think that's what I knew was with my mom that it worked for her.
How did you have to be resilient in the tech field?
Like just I think I don't like the fake it till you make it. I don't like that statement. I like that. you express yourself in a way just to show up authentic and letting people know that you don't have all the answers, right? And you're there to sit at the table to learn.
Yeah.
And you will do what you need to do, to get to the next step and figure it out. And so my resilience is, it may take me more time to get the work done, but through partnerships and just asking questions, and sometimes it's really hard to ask questions. And my thing is I don't want to take time up of other people,
Okay.
but at the same time, if people called me and said, "Hey, could you help me with this?" I'm really happy to help. So I like to think that other people are like that too, because it's a give and a take. It's not always just give, give, give. You have to have that reciprocity
Mm-hmm.
to support each other. I mean, that's to me what partnership is. It's not just a one-way street. And um, I don't mind helping others, but I have to think in those terms of um, that what comes around goes around. And you put good thoughts out and help others, and hopefully it's kind of like in the grocery store. Like, there's a lot of times that I go in the grocery store and I have like a big, huge shopping cart filled with stuff, and I look behind me and they may have one or two items, and it's like I always let them go first.
Yeah.
And I always think in my mind that one day that will happen, like where someone will let me go. And it does every now and then.
Yeah.
But it's that give and take, it's that shared. And that I believe is just true partnership.
In my world, I call that the cycle of generosity.
Yes.
It comes
Yes.
from
I
scripture. It
love
comes
that.
from a story in Acts and it talks about the church, the ancient church. But it's this idea that everybody is giving of what they do have. And then those in the community are able to take of what they don't have. And so
Hmm.
everyone is giving, and then everyone is being able to receive and
Yes.
no, there was no lack in that community. I think it's just this beautiful image.
It's
And
so
so
peaceful.
I live that. I try to live that way, right? Giving of what I do have to give and receiving from others what I don't have but need.
And we're all unique. And we don't come with a cookie cutter, and nor do we want to.
Yeah.
And so I love that. I really love that explanation of what you said. That makes so much sense. And we're not all the same.
That's right. Thankfully.
Yes.
So tell us more about your career in tech, because you made this huge pivot. So what was happening in your career that really kept you there for so long?
I think it was just connection for me. I loved being able to, one channel at that time was the Underdog. It used to be called Channels before
Mhm.
we had really the internet. Um, and Channels was which way, how are we working? Different channels,
Yeah.
right? But it meant something different then. Our channels at that time were um, working with our corporate teams and working with different areas of marketing. So it could have been global marketing or regional or America's marketing, for example, but then also working with the different types of resellers. So that was the part that I really loved so much, is connecting and helping them and figuring out different ways to do it. And that's what I love so much, is seeing how things would come together for campaigns that we would work on together,
Yeah.
and taking one thing from one spot, like an idea, and then putting it out there and seeing how it could blossom into something else. And there was one project that I loved so much, and I had at Cisco we had changes with management quite a bit, as within probably any tech company.
Mhm.
And at that time, I was in US channel marketing. So we were the underdogs, and we kept having to teach people what channels was, even within Cisco, because Cisco was used to selling direct, meaning that they were selling directly to the consumer or directly to the company, and they didn't really want to work with channels. And so we had to think about the solution on, it's better if you actually work with the channel, because then we have more people out there that are selling our product on our behalf. So
Yeah.
it's actually a benefit to us. And so getting the company to understand that and the sales teams to understand that now, it's kind of a given, but it wasn't
Yeah.
a given at that time. And we actually had Channels 101.
Got it. Yeah. And were you traveling a ton because there wasn't the ease of technology platforms like there is now?
Um, yeah, we traveled a bit, quite a bit, even when there was the platforms, just to be
Mm.
sure that we had that face-to-face connection. But I remember one project that I worked on that I loved so much, and it was called Campaign Builder. And it was an opportunity when I switched management in US channels. And I said, this product is out of the UK and it's something that we can use in US channels, but as we grow, it can be leveraged in even like America's channels, or we can grow it to the other countries as well.
Mm.
And it was like an Evite where you go in and you put your information in and your advertising and your logos and all of that. And it was customizable. So you could actually see it go all the way through, and then it comes out as like this big, beautiful postcard or whatever it is you're doing. That is now everywhere, right?
Yeah.
But it wasn't at that time. It was very new to have resellers input their list, design what they wanted based on what we wanted to drive at Cisco with our messaging, our branding, and they could co-brand a little bit. And that was paid for by US. Then I moved to global channels because of that role.
Okay.
And it was really because my boss said yes to allowing me to work on this project that I moved to global channels and then to global marketing. And then we launched it globally. And it became like the product that they use not only for channels, but also for direct campaigns, like within Cisco, just to make it consistent and easy globally, because it was all about consistency and how do we get um, the consistent messaging out there in a consistent format.
I can see so much how your career equipped you for the work you're doing now. It's just in a completely different
Yeah.
industry and a different space. So what were your ambitions when, let's say when you were in your early 30s, how did you envision your career playing out? Did you have specific goals that you wanted to reach a certain title or level within the company or a different company?
I was nervous to get above VP because I wanted to be a director, but I was very nervous about getting above VP or at VP because I had heard if you get to VP and say something changes or the industry changes or jobs, it's harder to find a job or stay consistent in getting a job. That was my mindset at that time. And I think it was just scared and it was fear for me. And so I didn't actually make it to director working in tech, but I felt like what I was doing in leading initiatives and partnering and connecting, and I would get, a lot of really positive feedback from my bosses
Mhm.
about how do you do this nationally or internationally? And it was just building friendships and connection. And that was enough for me. That was really enough. Like I
Yeah.
wasn't really shooting to be director at that point, but I knew that something was missing in what I was doing.
So your sweet spot is relationships, connection, partnering, doing things together, collaboration.
Yes,
You're happiest when
most
you're doing
definitely.
that.
Yes. Even planning parties or finding things to do, like unique things to do that my friends may not want to research on their own. I'm like,
Yeah.
I found this great Airbnb
Oh, you could
in
be a total
Lake
travel planner.
Tahoe. Oh yeah, totally, totally.
So you said something was missing. What did you start to notice?
I started to notice that any company that I worked with, I really wanted to be that volunteer project coordinator to get our teams together to go give back.
Oh, okay.
So whether it was Alzheimer Association, Second Harvest, Sacred Heart, and I loved that so much, and I wasn't doing enough of that
Yeah.
for my heart, right?
Okay.
So
Hmm.
that was about when I just was like, it's just I know I mean, it could have been under within benefits or HR. I felt like, am I in the wrong group? Or I don't know. It just was the mission and the purpose wasn't aligned with what I
Let
wanted to
me
do.
pause you there because you said something that was really beautiful. You said the I wasn't giving enough for my heart. That's so beautiful because it's an awareness,
Yeah.
right? That there's more inside of me than I am able to give in this capacity right now. And so that was a driving force for you. So
It
what was
was.
happening inside your heart?
I think stifled.
Mm.
And I'm getting like emotional today.
Well, yeah, because our heart, we are emotional beings. I mean, that's the passion, right? That's
Yeah.
the motivation, is because we care so deeply.
Yes. Yeah, I think it was just stifled. Um, and that's what I noticed, that I really wanted to spend 80% of that connecting in that way
Yeah.
locally. Um, and then I still, of course, I wanted to get paid, right? But I had to find that balance.
Hmm. So how did you see your choices at that point in your life?
Well, I noticed that I was just, I felt like I was doing the same thing over and over. So I'd made a couple different career choices, and I didn't last on my own because I'm like, no, this isn't it. I still haven't found it. And so I knew that I loved Cisco. I just really loved working at Cisco. And I loved the whole culture, the benefits, the initiatives that they did, but we're all around connection and just connecting with each other. So that was really my North Star. And I need to find something like that in the way the culture is,
Yeah.
but that fills my heart. And they will, I mean, Cisco's really wonderful about letting you almost define your own job within your job. And that's
Okay.
why they allowed me to be the volunteers director and the coordinator in addition to my own job, because
Okay.
they felt that was part of the culture that they built, was that.
That's
So
amazing.
it's a really, really amazing company. And it's still like that today. That's really their foundational culture.
And
So
who else was in your life at that point that you were, talking this through with, processing some of this and wrestling through the discomfort?
um one of my really good friends, actually two of them, that we first started working together when we were young. And this whole time I've been married,
Mhm.
And so my husband's always been a really huge supporter. But I had just these friendships with two ladies that we're still very close to. Like the three of us will get together. We're like the three musketeers. And
Wow.
we can just really talk about anything. And they're one's a VP, one's, she just left a really good job and she was a senior director, and she's trying to really figure out what she wants to do now in kind of this next phase of her life. And the VP in tech, she's wondering also, what
Yeah.
is it that I want to do? And I've always looked up to them so much, and we would just share great stories. So they have been really my rock from a corporate perspective, and coming from a technology background, but really with heart. And
Hmm.
so I kind of would just bounce things off of them and we'd share. And now they're like coming to me. And because I took this
'Cause you
leap,
did it.
I did it. And they're like, I can't believe you did it. You've been talking about it. I said I was
Okay.
going to do it,
So
but I
so
didn't know what.
how did you do it? Because there are so many women that I work with, that I talk to every day, who they do have something inside of them. They are feeling stuck. They're feeling disillusioned. They're feeling kind of worn out. Like they've done it. They've found a great deal of success. They really want to do something more meaningful, but the idea of making a significant transition feels really scary, and it almost feels impossible. Right.
Mm,
And so that's what keeps us stuck. We stay where we are, even though we're not happy and we're not giving in the ways that we're created for. But we stay because the fear of the unknown, the like, how in
yeah,
the world is this going to work? So the listeners are probably thinking this same thing. Like, yeah, I've definitely thought that. I have a dream, but it's like, who could do that? I've got to pay the
yeah,
bills. A lot of the women I work with are breadwinners for their families. So tell us how you made that transition.
yeah. So When my husband just said, because I wouldn't have been able to do this, without my husband. And we've lived in our home for now probably 30 years. And so we've owned this home for 30 years. So, owning a home in San Jose for 30 years, that your mortgage is going to be lower. And so we felt like we could do it without me having like my income for 1 year. And I found this goals coach online, and I kept getting her Facebook ads. And I thought, I'm just going to call her. And so I had a 1 hour session with her for free. And I really we connected just really quickly. And I just believed in so much that I wanted something different, but I needed to learn more about myself. And I needed some kind of accountability of someone to kind of get me to it. Like I could read a book, yes, and do that, but I needed something kind of just to pull me back in weekly. And so I met with, I signed up with her, and she actually worked full time for Coca-Cola, and she took on this project because she was trying to do the same thing too, like to do something different,
Okay.
to be a goals coach. And I love the fact that she had a little bit of that tech or corporate mentality in her background, because we could kind of speak the same language. And she was just really helpful. Like she just helped me understand so much more about myself, and the things that I love to do, and more about my behavioral patterns, and where those, when I start feeling a certain way, figure out where that actually came from and start connecting those dots are so important. So she was just, but I knew when I met with her at that point that I wanted to work with seniors, but I didn't know at that time, even with what capacity I wanted to do that.
Okay.
At that time, I was thinking about doing affiliate marketing and selling products that would help seniors. So it could be Wonder Guard, or there's these things called jelly drops that were developed in the UK for Alzheimer's to help them hydrate. And so I was thinking about doing that, but I felt like that could still be products that I do, but I need something foundational. And so that's where I discovered the concierge, was just talking through it with her and then starting to put things together. And then I found a book on senior concierge, which then the more I started putting things into the internet, and it started bringing things up about the franchise. And like I mentioned before, I hadn't thought about a franchise. And I actually had to sit down with my husband, because I'm like, I can either do this on my own and do a senior concierge, or I can do this franchise. And this is what this looks like. And, it's pretty significant cost to do the franchise. But he said, I think you should do the franchise. Like he got it right away. He goes, you have the marketing support, you have the foundational support, you have the team, so you're not by yourself.
Yeah.
It kind of feels like you're at corporate, even though, because you're so used to working at home anyway. So all of those things fit together. And, I have metrics with the franchise. So I have things that I have to be accountable to, or, I'll get penalized. So that kind of felt even like corporate too.
Some accountability.
Yes, exactly.
It's so interesting to hear you describe that journey that you were on, because it's such a strong example of how transitions go. It's there's something that stirs us into wanting to make a change, even explore the possibility of a transition, and then we have to find our resources and our people that can help us on that journey. We have to learn more about ourselves. We have to get
Yeah.
clarity, which is what the coach helped you with. And it happens all the time with my clients. The insights and the revelation, it happens in the coaching sessions. There
Yes.
is an illumination that happens. And to have a partner with you in it, where they can help you go deeper, make
Yes.
that image become clearer. What do you mean by that? Okay, what is it about seniors? What you mentioned a concierge thing. We might say something in passing, but a good coach is going to say, wait a minute, let's pause there. Say more about that. And then it evolves, and you do research, and then you realize, oh my goodness, this is what my heart is crying out for, is to do this type of work. And here are two realistic ways that I could move into it.
Yeah.
What did it feel like when you were in the middle of exploring that?
Um, Nervousness, because I did put things out there to the ladies I was telling you about,
Yeah.
and I felt like they're probably like, "Here she is again." Nickell's like, doing this thing again, like,
Yeah.
because I hadn't really done it yet, but I didn't want to put too much out because I still was figuring it out on my own. And I didn't want to be like boy cries wolf, right?
Mm.
But I knew that I I knew definitively the things that I wanted to do. And I knew in my heart that I was going to do one or the other. And so much so that how I found actually the franchise was something popped up that I didn't even know that they had franchise brokers, and a franchise broker helps you figure out, just kind of like what I'm doing with seniors.
Yeah.
There's franchise broker that does that, and you
Okay.
tell them what you're looking for and they'll help you find it. So I came to my franchise broker with the one that I had found, but I was not happy with that one. Um, because I felt like there was an arrogance. It was actually female owned, and I really loved the owner, but I was very unhappy with the sales guy that I was working with because I felt like he was arrogant, and I didn't want to go into a
Mhm.
company that had that arrogance up front. So then I was kind of discouraged, and I thought, is that the only one that's out there,
Hmm.
that this type of company? And that's where I found the franchise broker, and he goes, I have one for you. And it was Oasis. And
Amazing.
and it was like night and day. As much as I loved so many things about the other one, that's really
Yeah.
what led me to find Oasis Senior Advisors.
Yeah. And so, um, what is your vision for your work with Oasis now? Where do you see this going for yourself and for, the clients that you'll work with?
Yeah. So for myself, I hired actually my first employee in the February timeframe, and full circle, she was my manager at Cisco 20 years ago.
Wow.
Yes. So she actually works the between the San Jose and the Santa Cruz. There's a big mountain here. And so I get quite a few calls, even though that's not really my territory, but I don't have anyone else up here in this area. So I knew that I needed someone for that territory to do the mountain areas and Santa Cruz and go down to Monterey. And it was just difficult to get over there.
Mhm.
Um, and I had talked with her about it right after she retired from Cisco. And at that time, she wasn't ready. And so, we talked again, and I just said, just always think about that. And so I said, let's do it, and so she's working full commission. And right now, I'm really helping her with the processes that corporate helped me with.
Okay.
I'm passing that on to her and helping her get established. And she's doing commission, so she's doing sales,
Mhm.
and really just passing kind of the reins to her. And I expect in the next year that I'm going to have one more employee to start,
Yeah.
and double what we're doing.
Mhm.
And just foundationally, just working on the marketing and advertising. So leveraging what the franchise has developed. So now I'm kind of like the reseller in a way, where I'm working
Mhm.
with corporate and leveraging their baseline of what they're doing and then expanding upon that. So, and they do so much, like over a month, they're advertising everything and all of our marketing material online. They're doing newsletter. And so I can take any of that and tweak it to make it local.
Okay.
And so the next step with that is I'm doing an advertising direct mail campaign where I'm co-marketing with a realtor who's also specialized in senior real estate, working with seniors,
Mhm. Mhm.
and checking in to see how that's going to go, and then expanding that to other areas to support, just to build that more awareness and consistency.
Mhm. And so how has this job stretched you?
Um, Professionally and personally,
Yes.
or both?
All
Yes.
of it. Yeah.
I would say having to come in my own to, I'm now the owner. I'm a CEO, and
Mhm.
I have to think like a CEO and push back when there's something that doesn't feel right. And I've had to do that a couple times with things that were going to be very impactful and damaging if I didn't make a decision one
Yeah.
way or another, and just really believe in my heart and get facts documented, and making sure that I am stern in
Yeah.
that, I can still be soft-hearted but stern, that I mean business.
I'm guessing that's your lioness that shows up.
Really?
Yes. Yes. You're calling it stern, which I know you got from your mom, seeing
Yes.
her. But how else would you describe what's happening in that when you are stern and that lioness energy emerges?
Um, what I don't want to happen is scare people off,
Hmm.
right? That I want them to just come to the table and let's mean business about this and get the
Hmm.
work done and then go have fun, right?
Yeah.
Um, but that I don't know that it's stern, but I want people to just that we're serious about the business. This is serious business,
It
because
is.
it's taking care of seniors, and I want to make sure that we're making good decisions and that we're making thorough decisions, and it's not half baked. And I think that's what I want to be really thorough in that, and trust not only my intuition and my resources, but
Yeah.
also one thing one of my managers told me is um, trust, but it's what Reagan said. Now I can't even think of it.
Trust but verify.
Trust but verify.
My
Thank you.
husband says that a lot.
Yes. And that's it. It
Trust
really
but
is.
verify. Yeah.
Yes.
I hear you. You've used this phrase many times in this conversation, is in my heart, in my
Mm,
heart. And so that tells me that a lot of your decision making does start with your heart, how you feel about something, your instincts, your gut.
yes.
And then I also have heard you talk about data and
Hmm.
research and numbers, statistics. So my sense is that you combine those things to lead as a CEO.
That's perfect. That, yes. I went to a training called, I believe it's PACT. I don't know. It might be PACE, but I was the identifier. It was kind of like between the one that works with, like, pulls the teams together,
Mhm.
and the one that manages the research and the data.
Hmm. And they called it
Yeah.
identifier?
Something I'm going to have to check on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there weren't very many people in my group. But the weird thing is mine was so balanced across the board. I really could have sat anywhere.
Mhm.
And the trainer said that was unique. You didn't really
It's
see
rare.
that often.
Yeah. Yeah, it's rare. And so it's important to leverage those different aspects of yourself when they're needed.
Hmm. Definitely.
So we talked about statistics before we came on.
Hmm.
Can you talk about some of that when it comes to dementia and Alzheimer's?
Yeah, I'd love to. Um, so right now, just alone with, I'll give you the number of the baby boomer, and it's called the silver tsunami, is another term that it's
Hmm.
called right now. And this is really hard to believe, but there's 10,000 people every single day turning 65 in just the US alone.
Wow. The silver tsunami is what they
Yes.
call it.
Hmm. Yeah.
10,000 a day
Hmm.
turning 65. Whoa.
Yeah. And this is baby boomers. So it's
Mhm.
the next biggest thing, because we need to be prepared to take care of,
Mm.
to support, to make sure that there's enough funds to take care of them,
Right.
which ties into dementia and Alzheimer's. So with Alzheimer's right now, I'm going to pull, I think I still have that statistic up, Jen. Give me just a second.
Sure.
Um, about 1 in 9 people age 65 and older has Alzheimer's today,
Almost 10%.
almost 10%. Um, 384 billion health and long-term care costs for people living with dementia are projected to reach 384 billion in 2025 and nearly 1 trillion by 2050.
Wow.
Yes, this is astounding. The lifetime risk for Alzheimer's at age 45 is 1 in 5 for women and 1 in 10 for men.
Okay. So that's scary. What advice do you give to listeners who are in that category, when it comes to, number one, thinking about ourselves and how we are going to age and planning for that, but also how do we care for and support our aging parents? What advice do you have?
Well, I think it does start with yourself first, because if you're not healthy, and we are the sandwich generation. So the sandwich generation, and yeah, it's every generation has a sandwich generation, but this is the biggest one because we are taking care of our children, and many times we're juggling to manage our own. Like our role is becoming more complicated because things are getting more complex in even our day to day. And then we're helping our seniors, and many of us have senior parents that we're either dealing with this now or it's coming. And so the biggest thing that we can do is make sure that we are doing self-care and self-love. And the things that we know about is prevention, that we can prevent. And it's what we eat, it's in our environment, but we can help support that, meaning that rather than getting the fast food because it's quick and easy for you and your family, taking the time to prepare on Sundays for the week and having that home cooked meal. And that can help reduce minimizing your alcohol intake and leaning towards more mocktails or smoothies instead. But I don't remember what the statistics is on that, but we had a session last week with the Alzheimer's Association, and it was exercise, increase your exercise, reduce your alcohol, and reduce processed foods, and try to drink out of glass rather than plastics. So the thing about the processed foods is the charcuterie is blooming, like where everyone, wants to have this thing called charcuterie, which, yeah, I love it too. But, it is all processed foods.
Yeah. My husband and I went through a health program in the last year, and we changed a lot about how we eat and live and our habits. And it was for the purpose of trying to heal from some things that we're dealing with, but also to prevent Alzheimer's and dementia because it runs in my family. And so to the extent that I have control over certain things, I want to do those things. And there's things that I can't control, but the things that I can, I want to, because I want to give myself and him the best shot at living our senior years in a really fulfilling way.
Yeah, it is so important. I'm so glad to hear that you're doing that and you've made some changes.
Yeah. So what about how to help our aging parents? Because that's a big one that people are dealing with all around me.
So with the aging parents, there's really two kinds that I've seen. One, they know that they have a problem, and the seniors, they don't want to admit it. And so they get resistant and can be aggravated and frustrating or frustrated and lash out because they're struggling with what's going on in their brain too. So in some moments they may be lucid and things are going well, and then all of a sudden something's going on in the brain and triggering. And so the way that we can help in that case is a lot of what you said earlier is reframing. So one of the worst things that we can do with our parents or senior loved ones is to argue with them. is like, no, that's not right. Or do you remember me? Or what's my name? Or
Mhm,
you're
mhm.
feeling bad because they don't remember your name.
Right.
Um, that doesn't help. That escalates it. So the best that you can do is kind of reframe or reroute. Like if they're like, we need to go to the grocery store, and say the senior saying this, I want to go to the grocery store and I want to go now. And you could say, okay, mom, we're going to go in about 5 minutes. I just need to find my shoes, or I need to find my scarf or
Mhm.
whatever it is, because they can relate to that you need to go find something.
Yeah.
And then by the time they forget about it. So
Yeah.
that's the reframing, but always try to go along with whatever it is, just kind of redirect, kind of like
Mhm,
what you would do with your toddlers, to
mhm.
redirect their attention somewhere else.
And how do you navigate the relationships when we are talking with both the adult children and the senior who is, I don't, maybe partly making the decision, but probably not fully at that point. And yet, I mean, it's just such a challenging, it's challenging for everybody. The adult kids probably don't want their parents to go through this. The adult, the senior is probably used to being the parent, doesn't want the children telling them what to do.
Yeah.
And you're in the middle of that.
Yes.
How do you navigate that?
It's really different for every single, just like we're all unique that we talked about earlier, that it's exactly like that for our seniors and the dynamics of the family. Sometimes you walk in and there's kids that don't even want to talk with the parents, but the parents really need help. And you're trying to get them to help and step in, and they don't want to pay for it. And the kids don't want to pay for it because it's too expensive. And you're trying to help them understand that, well, what options do you have?
Yeah.
We need to really think through this. So sometimes I can be the mediator
Yeah.
to help the kids say, you really need to come together, children, as, a unified front.
Mhm.
And this experience, it's not going to be easier, especially if you guys are fighting. We need
Mhm.
to make sure we have a unified front with your mom and get her the help that she needs.
When I hear you talk about that, so I'm back to the lioness energy. What occurred to me earlier when I was listening is that the thing that drives you is wanting to care for people well. And so when you show up, well, I'll call it, you could call it stern because that resonates more in your mind.
I know we
I
need to
call it
do a new word for that.
lioness energy.
Yeah, lioness. There we go.
It's it's out of a desire for people to be well, for something to be whole in what you're providing to a client or a partner. It's wanting people to have great choices and be able to be empowered to make great decisions for their lives and for the people that they love. So I see that as when you have to step into that gap, it's because you care deeply about the people that you're serving. And
Yes.
that ultimately is rewarding for you.
Not
Not easy
easy.
for anybody involved, but that lioness energy emerges so that you are able to step into those challenging situations and really help.
Yeah, I mean, I find that both sides of the house are looking for someone else to make the decision. They're
Mm,
exhausted on both sides in
yeah,
many cases, and they're coming to me because they need help
yeah,
providing that direction. And so I find that I have to kind of take that role to step in, just kind of like a mom would, like, okay,
mhm,
we got to get these things done and we don't have a lot of time to do it.
yeah,
And let's figure out how we're going to navigate this. And here are the things that I feel like your mom is going through. So
yeah.
that's one scenario. There's the other scenario where um, the adult children or the seniors are ready. They're ready.
Okay,
And that they may have some MCI issues going on. And so they're forgetting the conversations that we've had.
okay,
And some days they're stronger in their memory than others. So I have to be really clear on the notes, the messaging, the documentation, making sure that I'm writing good notes so that I can even refer back, because,
sure,
I may have like 5 other clients, and sometimes I do um, the scenario is similar, I may get them a little mixed up in my mind and have to think about it. So, but I mean, I just feel so grateful that there is the support out there,
Mhm.
and I love that it's a free service. And I do get every day like, "How are you giving it away for free?" And they're skeptical,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
when they explain it, they're like, "Okay, well that makes sense." And some think that there's a markup, and I go, "No, it's flat across the board. It's exactly what you would pay, and I don't even get that much. I'm just getting a percentage of that." But it's the free service for the family. And
Yeah.
my I think my struggle is I spend a lot of time doing research, and I may not even the family may not even be ready. They may like get to the point and then say, "Oh, we're not actually ready to move her
Of
in."
course. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just the risk I have to take.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So, if you were to give advice to women who are still in corporate and they want to make a leap to do something really meaningful that their heart's crying out for, what would you tell them if they're in that spot?
I wish I had my book down here. I purchased this book called Inner Work,
Hmm.
and to help me with just personal business, things that just to understand more about myself. So taking it from the things that I learned with my goals coach. So I would say just really check in with yourself, um, understanding that inner work to learn more about yourself. And that I think can be so revealing and also very healing, because understanding more about yourself, it helps you reconnect and you can kind of reflect back over the years on when things came up at work that you felt stuck and didn't know how to get out of it, and why did you feel the way you did.
Mhm.
Um, and I've done that a lot, where I reflect back when I start feeling kind of that, what I feel like is my inner child at that point in life when I felt like that,
Yeah.
and understanding what was that and why, and then being able to connect the dots, I think makes a really big difference for you to then be able to move forward, is learning about yourself.
Nickell, that's awesome. You've done so much inner work. You've done so much work to get to this point.
And I'm still doing it every day.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
things that
Me too.
still happen daily, that I'm not going to make the right choice every single time. And this is what I talk with my kids about. We're not perfect. We're not
Right.
experts in every single tiny little detail of everything.
Not
And
even close.
yeah, and we're going to make mistakes, but then we're going to learn from those mistakes and then
Yeah.
move to the next and remember what we did and change
Yeah.
it.
There's, one of the things to go back to, how should people be thinking about their future and whether it's worth making a transition or at least exploring it. It's like, can you see yourself, if nothing changes, how satisfied will you be? If you're still in the same position in 3 years, how will you feel about yourself? How will you feel about life?
Hmm.
Because when we get out of the day-to-day grind and we start to pull out and look ahead, that's when we can make better decisions.
Hmm.
Do I want to be in a different role? Do I want to be doing something different with my life in 3 to 5 years? Okay. It's probably time to start exploring that now.
Yeah. Finding your legacy, I think, is important.
Yes. Yes. It's interesting. I do a lot of work around legacy, and legacy doesn't typically resonate as quickly with women as it does with men, is what I've found.
Mm-hmm.
And so women aren't consumed with what kind of legacy do I want to leave behind, but what they do really care about is, am I making a positive impact with my life? And am I
Hmm.
going to feel proud about that? So it's not about making a big name for themselves and having a
Yeah.
statue built for themselves, but it is about how they affected other people.
Yeah.
And that is legacy.
I think so too. I really think it's like, how do you want to be remembered?
Hmm.
And
Exactly.
um, yeah, who are you helping? So one thing that I think is, and I think my husband's serious about this. So he's 5 years older than me, and he says, well, if anything happens at work, because there's obviously a lot of changes going on in the world, he says, I'll just come and work for you. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I'd love that. I'd love that. We actually have a lot of couples that work for Oasis.
Okay.
And I can already envision him doing that. He's a
Yeah.
great collaborator. Plus, he handles the money really, really well. And I'm like, oh, that would be so perfect.
Wow.
So,
Amazing.
yeah. So
It
that
could
could be,
be.
yeah, it could be.
So if people want to find out more about you and the work that you're doing, either, just finding out about Oasis, finding out about franchising,
Yeah.
finding out about how this concierge works, how does that happen? What's the best way to find out and connect with you?
Yeah, I think, do you want me to give my email or do we want to just show
It's up
you
to you.
my email? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the easiest, I'll just give you my phone number. So it's 408-343-8484.
Okay. So they can contact you directly
Mm-hmm. They
and
can.
ask questions. And then how would they find out about Oasis? Is there a general website that they can go to that is maybe across the nation?
Yep. And it's oasissenior.advisors.com.
OasisSeniorAdvisors.com.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And
Awesome.
we're national. There's 140 of us. So
So
whatever area they're in.
Nickell is a very generous person. I can tell. So if you have some questions about for yourself, for your aging parents, about franchising, anything, feel free to reach out to Nickell. Thank you so much for being here, for sharing your story, for your bravery, and just the way that you're giving. I love that how you have followed your heart. Truly, you have listened to your heart and allowed it to lead and get you to this point of being able to help so many families in such a critical stage of life.
Well, thank you so much what you're doing, Jen. And by chance, I just found the Lioness on LinkedIn and
Yeah.
it just spoke to me.
I'm
So
so
it's just
thankful we're connected.
a delight just working with you and really enjoy it. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, until the next episode, the lioness in me sees the lioness in you.